It was a muggy Tuesday night in Mayberry, the kind of night that clung to your skin like a cheap suit. The street lights flickered, casting long shadows that danced on the pavement, and I leaned against the brick wall of the diner, nursing a cup of coffee that tasted like it had been brewed in a boot. I was waiting for something, or maybe someone, when I spotted a figure in the distance, her silhouette framed by the dim light of the moon. It was Helen Crump, the schoolteacher with a smile that could melt the ice in a whiskey glass. She walked with purpose, her heels clicking against the sidewalk, a rhythm that matched the pounding in my chest. I knew she had a secret, a mystery wrapped in a smile. She approached, her eyes darting around like a cat in a room full of rocking chairs. "Andy," she whispered, her voice smooth like jazz on a late-night radio. "I need your help." I straightened up, my detective instincts kicking in. "What's the trouble, doll?" I asked, trying to keep my tone cool, but the heat in the air made it difficult. "It's Opie," she said, biting her lip, her eyes wide with worry. "He's gotten himself mixed up with some rough kids down by the creek. They're talking about things he shouldn't be hearing. You know how impressionable he is." I nodded. Opie was a good kid, but he had a knack for getting himself into trouble. I couldn't help but feel a pang of responsibility. I was the sheriff, after all, and in this town that meant more than just keeping the peace. It meant being a father figure, a protector, a confidant. "I'll talk to him," I said, my voice steady. "But you need to keep him close. Don't let him out of your sight." Her eyes softened, and for a moment, the weight of her worry lifted. "Thank you, Andy. I knew I could count on you." As she turned to leave, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the tip of the iceberg. Mayberry was a small town, but even the smallest towns had their shadows. I made my way to the creek, the moonlight guiding my steps. The water gurgled, a soft melody that masked the tension in the air. I found Opie sitting on a log, tossing pebbles into the water. His face was scrunched up in concentration, but it didn't take long for him to notice me. "Hey, Sheriff," he said, trying to sound nonchalant, but I could see the guilt written all over him. "Opie," I said, my voice low. "We need to talk." He shifted uncomfortably, the innocence of childhood slipping away like the last rays of sunlight. "About what?" "About the company you've been keeping." He looked down, the weight of my words pressing down on him. "It's just some kids from school. They're not bad, really." I knelt down beside him, trying to meet him at eye level. "Sometimes, Opie, it's not about being bad. It's about being smart. You don't want to get caught up in something you can't handle." He nodded slowly, the understanding dawning in his eyes. "I just wanted to fit in." I ruffled his hair, a gesture of reassurance. "You don't need to change who you are to fit in, kid. You're already one of the best." As I stood up, I felt the weight of the night settle back on my shoulders. The shadows were closing in again, and I knew this wasn't over. Mayberry had its secrets, and I was determined to uncover them. I turned back towards town, the sound of the creek fading behind me. In this town of simple folks, sometimes the simplest things hid the darkest truths. And as long as I wore the badge, I'd make sure those truths didn't stay buried for long.